Well, good afternoon, runners. It's Coach Joe, and I have a special guest with me today, Chris Solinsky, sitting next to me on the bench. We always, Chris hasn't seen a lot of the show. We always name the place that where we're talking about. We've had Runner's Berm, Runner's Mound, Runner's Bleacher. You know, all these things. Today we're going to be on Chris's bench.
Yep.
Chris's bench is the spot. And if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock, Chris is a fast runner.
Try to.
On this week's episode, we're going to talk about Chris's background. He did something quite amazing. Was it last year? When you
About 11 months ago.
11 months ago.
Yep.
He, as they say, surprised a lot of people.
Including
himself, which is good. And what did you do 10 months ago or 11 months ago?
Ran into 27 minutes, and along the way broke the American record.
There you go. And the North American record.
North American
I understand.
Record. Yep.
And I saw a little bit of trivia that you were they like to say you're the only non-African runner that's run under 27 minutes, but I also found out that you're the only runner over 141 pounds.
Yeah.
And over 6 feet tall.
Yes, I think 5'10" is the next highest or something like that.
Why is that? I mean, well, what's kind of funny about that is that you're bigger than a lot of these guys, and you joked the other day that you can see where you're going, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. A lot of times, guys in the group hate running behind me because they can't see where they're going in training, and you know, I'm always can see what's coming up. I can always dodge potholes or whatever, and you know, you see runners fall in front of you in races, you can see it happen. Yeah, so I'm never in the position where I get the wind blocked for me, but I definitely do a lot of wind blocking.
I had noticed a couple of weeks ago in a race that I felt like it was a really competitive race because the water was hitting me in the front.
Oh yeah.
For once, you know, normally it's all over your back, but I was getting it this way too. So you know when you're running tight like that.
Oh, I've had it many times where I wear contacts, so you get mud in the eye, and all of a sudden it moves your contacts. You have to like I'll just sit there and blink while I'm racing, be like, please don't fall, please don't fall. So it's like, yeah, you get, even if everyone's shorter than you still get stuff thrown up in your face.
Oh my gosh. So tell, you know, in that race, this was your debut race at the 10,000, but you're way experienced runner. I know you've, was it 4 NCAA titles and
Five. Yeah,
okay.
4 Big Ten, 5.
Okay.
I wasn't as good at the Big Ten.
You were that's interesting.
Yeah.
But in doing that, you obviously raced a lot. So how is it that you had not run a 10K before, or had you run them outside of the?
The closest thing I'd ever come is, I think I'd run 2 road 10Ks, and then every year for cross country it was a cross country 10K.
Okay. Yeah.
Never once did it on the track.
Had you ever raced longer than that? Like on a half marathon or something like that?
No, actually, the longest I'd ever raced, was a 10K, and then I did it like a marathon relay and ran the 10K leg at the end. Yeah. So I guess I did more than 2 road races. It was probably about 4 10Ks in the road. But yeah, I'd done 25 laps, but on an indoor track, which I thought was terrible, and I couldn't imagine doubling the distance. So yeah, it was a big step, but a lot of the training had gone well and led us to believe that I'd be okay at it. So.
And why did you? Yeah, what was it that drove you up to the 10K? This must have been a hard decision to make.
It wasn't as much my decision as it was my coach's decision. Right. But basically, our whole philosophy is a lot of coming at, no matter what distance you're at, coming at it with a lot of strength. Like we had found with the 5K that if you come through the bell and 12:05 to 12 minutes, but you're anaerobic already, you're already dying, you're not going to be able to kick with the top guys in the world. So our philosophy was, all right, well, let's get strong enough that we can come through at 13-minute pace but be able to kick. And so that's kind of where it all came from. I just kind of upped the mileage and did a lot of tempo, a lot of higher end fartlek, longer fartlek, long repeats, and some of the workouts were going really well, and I was actually doing a little bit better than some of the guys who were running the 10K. And so Jerry's like, well, maybe we should give this a shot. And, we weren't planning on racing, but let's just have fun and jump in it. If it goes well, it goes well. If not, it'll at least give you something to shoot for in terms of high volume training, and then you can kind of come down and race the 5K. And so that's all it was, and it turned out well. I was definitely in no man's land a lot and running scared quite often.
So that would be a shocker then,
Yeah.
if you were really just kind of walking on to
Oh yeah,
try it.
yeah. I had zero expectations for myself. I'd said that I could go anywhere from 26:55 to 28 minutes, and I believe the 26:55 was more me just being like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
The moon's aligned. You know, they did align that night.
That's amazing. And in the tape of that, one of the most amazing things about that, I'm sure you've watched it a lot, is the announcer that sounds like he's going to have a heart attack.
Yeah.
But when you see you're running around 1,200 meters to go, you look very like you're running really fast, but you look very in control and like you're not really pushing that hard. And then all of a sudden, with was it 1,200 meters?
900
yeah,
to go.
900 to go. You can markedly see the difference in your tempo and your stride.
I think one of the things I've always, like, in races, my mantras has always been to just be relaxed. And so whether I'm running, 62-second pace for 5K or 60-second pace for 3K, and then 65 or 64 seconds for 10K, it's no matter what pace, it's just focused on. I just repeat in my head over and over and over again, relax, 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 and that's how I got to that point. And I tried to stop worrying about pace and everything, and I tried not to hear the splits, even though there was splits being called off at the start finish and at the 200 meter mark. So I heard each lap and I heard what we were at 200. So it's like for 25 laps of that, it was hard not to know where we were pace wise. Yeah. But I just tried to be as relaxed as possible. And then throughout college, I'd often made a big move from a long way out and learned that even if you're running hard and you switch gears, you have to focus even more on being relaxed. And so usually, I remember the announcer was saying something along the lines of looking so relaxed even once I took the lead. And that was just me being like, okay, if I have to push hard, I have to make sure I'm totally chilled out and just feeling limber and loose and relaxed. And that's kind of where that came from.
And what did it feel like?
When I first went, I was like, oh, you're crazy. And I actually let up a little bit on the backstretch of that first lap that I led, because in the past I'd kind of gone on a little too hard and paid the price towards the last 200. Right? Yeah, and the Olympic trials in 2008, I took the lead with about 1,000 to go and totally faded the last 200 meters. And so it's I've had those experiences that scared me a little bit. And so, yeah, in the backstretch of the second to last lap, I definitely took my foot off the gas a little bit. I wanted to make a big enough surge to get away. Yep. And then I'm like, okay, save a little bit. And then once I came around with 500 to go, then I started notching it down again each 100 meters. And was just trying to, I had no idea what time I was on pace to run or anything. And then until about 200 to go, I heard someone say it was 26:32 or something like that. And then
you went, huh?
And it took me until halfway around the corner to actually do the math.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, I better get moving. And so I really kicked it into gear. But before that, I was just trying to win the race and do it so I wouldn't screw it up like I had in the past.
Well, okay, let's come back to that. But I want to touch on something. Your time was, what was it, 26? 59.6. Okay. Yeah. And we talked about the first person to go under 27 minutes. That's how close we're talking here.
Yeah, it almost didn't happen.
59.6. And we always, as marathon runners, people that are trying to qualify for Boston or something, you can miss it by a second, and it's, or a couple of tenths of a, hundredths of a second, and that would have been, that would have been a really different story. You still would have broken the American record.
It wouldn't have been nearly as much attention.
Right.
Definitely not. And I fully realized how close I was to it being a completely different story. It would have been a good night, but it wouldn't have been probably nearly as exciting or talked about as it was. Yeah. So.
But if as you think of it, is there some place where you think, wow, that could have been that second right there? Like somebody steps in front of you or start or something, it's... There
was actually a point in the race where I almost checked off the pace. I can't remember if it was either just before 5K or just after, because I was trying not to hear splits, but I actually did hear them. And I heard a few 63-second quarters, and I was like, this is too fast. I can't do this.
What do you think you should have been?
Well, we were planning, originally we were going in there thinking 27:20, and then after we had already gotten down to Stanford, and then that's when Galen joined the race, and they're talking American records. So then we're like, okay, well that's 65-second per quarter pace. Right. We were on 66-second to 65 point, and so yeah, so I was thinking 65s going in and being like, okay, I can do 65, I can do this. And then hearing a few times heard 64, and then hearing 63, I'm like, this is suicide. Like this far out, like this is suicide. And I like there was a point where I kind of let it get away, like a little bit of a gap. But then I'm like, that's where it'd be my first 10K, and like having. I honestly said I have nothing to lose. Like if I drop out, no one cares. Like I'm just gonna go for it, and if I blow up, I blow up. If not, it could be fun, it could be a good effort. And, it turned out to be. And that point, it could have definitely not even have been close to that, because if I would have checked off, the race would have been over for me.
And you said that the other day when we were at an event, you said you just wanted to finish. And I want to touch on that for a minute, because you're a champion runner, but there is even a thought in your mind that maybe you couldn't do it. And probably not the distance, obviously you could have slowed down and done it, but it's that you're redlined.
Yep, exactly. And the 10K I'd run before that was my last cross-country race, my senior year in college, and I was actually the favorite to win and finished 73rd. So I had a really, really bad taste in my mouth for 10Ks. And, it just, I was definitely scared, and I'm like, I don't know how I can run for 20, in my mind I was going to the race, I don't know how I can run for 27 minutes or more and be on that, on like redlining and close to being on the verge of blowing up, and I don't know how I can do this. And, I know training's going well, like, workouts say that I should easily be able to do this, but it's like, until you actually get out there and start the race and go through the motions and get it down, there's always going to be doubt, no matter what level you're on. I get just as nervous for races now, during, before, everything, as I did my first race ever. And you would think, and I always thought when I was younger, I'm like, oh, when I'm better, it's going to be a piece of cake. But it's like the stakes get just as high, and not higher. And so the nerves are always there. And, that night, I did give myself an out, being like, this is my first race. Like, if I need to, I can drop out, and no one will care, because going into that, no one was talking about what I was going to be doing or anything, and no one expected me to even be doing the 10K until we signed up for it. And so I had nothing to lose, and I think that's part of why it went so well.
That's great. And your plans next? What are you?
Right now it's just getting as much training as possible. Stanford 10K is coming back up. Gonna run it. Just to get the Olympic A standard. I don't think we're going to be thinking about anything quick until next year, where it's the Olympics, and then just be ready to run, because it could take 26:40, sub 26:40 to win the race. And so I think that's what's going to be the focus for us, is do what we have to this year to get ready for next year to run fast.
And do you see yourself in the 10K next year, or in the
most
Olympics?
definitely?
Right?
Yeah, most definitely.
Not the 5.
Yeah. We were toying around with doing the 5 this year, but I think we're leaning a little bit more towards the 10. We haven't made a definitive decision yet. It would be a no-brainer if it wasn't in South Korea with all the humidity. That's the one downfall about being a little bit bigger. It takes a little bit, or it's a lot tougher to deal with the heat and humidity. So if it was in a cooler place, it'd be a no-brainer. But we're just gonna see how training goes leading up to the U.S. Championships, and decide whether we'll do the 5 or the 10 this year. So
that's great.
Yeah, but the 10 is definitely the feature event for me now.
Cool. Well, we're going to take a pause, and we'll be back with a little bit more with Chris. He's agreed to talk a little bit more about his training, and we'll be right back with that. So stay with us.